Magandang hapon. So today we have as our guest Mary Christine Odtojan. She is from Butuan City and she already did two professional licensure examinations. The first was as a psychometrician and the second is as a psychologist, and there she topped the board exam and she was coming from Xavier University. So let us now welcome Christine.
Mayong buntag or mayong hapon sa tanan. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Mary Christine Odtojan, and I am a registered psychologist and psychometrician. I graduated from my Bachelor of Arts in Psychology from University of the Philippines, Visayas, as a cum laude. And then I also finished my Master of Arts in Psychology at Xavier University, which is in Ateneo de Cagayan. And I am now based in Butuan City, connected with the Department of Education, Caraga.
Wow, congratulations. You moved to the government. That's really very inspiring, no? Especially now in these moments, it's really good that really some graduates are, of course, you are from UP, and it's good that really you are working with the government and for the government. So
Yes.
we are very fortunate that we have Christine. How would you like to be called? Mary Christine, Christine?
Yeah, most people that I know of call me Teen.
We are very fortunate that we have both in Teen, a Latin honor graduate, and experience with two licensure examinations and topping the second one. So let us ask her experience as a top-notcher in the professional licensure exam for psychologists. So, Teen, could you tell us your top 3 tips for topping the or preparing, and parang end result na talaga, no? Parang icing on the cake talaga yung being a top notcher. So how did you prepare for the board exam as a psychologist?
Okay, so since this psychologist board exam is already my second board examination, because the first one was psychometrician, so I already have an idea of how it is to prepare for the board exam, and I already reflected also on my previous experiences in the preparation for the board exam. And so these are the 3 things that I did, which I think helped me to be able to top the board exam. First one is to set a goal, to plan, and to strategize. So, to be honest, from the very start, my goal was really to be able to make it to the top 10 of the board exam. And so I thought that if I should make a goal, I want to make it more specific. So I thought, I also envisioned myself actually to be able to make it to the first round or to the first spot. But then I thought that it is just too ambitious for me to have that goal. And so maybe if I can make it to the top 10, the highest that I can get to is top 3. And so I actually made a DIY. I don't know if you can see it, if it's clear enough.
Yeah, it's clearing. It's all right. A little closer pa to the camera. Yes, that's your vision board ba?
Yeah, this is a
Nice.
DIY bookmark that I used
Okay.
during the review. So every time I start reviewing, I look at it so that I'll get motivated. But it's not as easy as that, because as I move towards the preparation of the board exam, the more I learned, I felt that the more that I do not know a lot of things. And so as I move forward during the preparation, the goal was from being able to make it to the top 10 to just being able to pass the board exam. And honestly, after the board exam, my prayer was just for God to help me accept if ever I cannot make it or I cannot pass the board exam. So you see, there was a decline in the goal, in the motivation, but at least I still made it. And then second was, from the very start, I planned everything out, like the topics that I will be covering for my review, the schedule, and I know that it's not always going to be that smooth if you have a plan. Things will really happen unexpectedly, and so I always made plan B, plan C. So that's how prepared I was for my review. And then the third one is to strategize. I actually had 3 review centers, but then I had different, or I got different programs from each of those review centers. I started with a mock board exam so that I will have a baseline on where I was already when it comes to knowledge. And then, second, I had a long distance review in which I was given materials for me to self review. And lastly, around 3 days, 5 days before the board exam, I took final coaching in a review center also in Manila. So, yeah, there were three review centers that I've enrolled with. And then, my second tip is every day during my review is I do push myself. Push is P means to pray. Of course, I always start my day and my review with a prayer, asking God for guidance. And then U is for study, because even if how much you pray, if you do not study, you will not really make it to your goal. And then finally, the SH is to stay healthy. So my experience with the psychometrician board exam is that the day before, or like 2 days before the board exam date or the board exam schedule, I had really bad acid reflux. Maybe because I wasn't eating too much, or maybe because I wasn't um, taking care of myself, or I was too stressed that time. So the fear that time was for me not to be able to take the board exam because of that sickness. But thank God I was able to still make it to the board exam and passed it. And lastly, my third tip is for you to know what works for you. Yes, I have things that or strategies that I did to myself, but it's not necessarily also effective to everyone. And so you should really start with self awareness, look into yourself, reflect on your past experiences, know what works for you, what study habit works for you, or your learning style, for example, so that you will be able to apply it in your study or in your preparation for the board exam or for any exam, actually.
Those are really substantive tips, Tin. So for you, I hope you really took note, but we will still repeat those same tips. And I am only going to ask two questions. If we were in a live stream, you're going to ask me, but you can still ask in the comments below. And for sure, Tin will come back. And if Tin is subscribed to my channel, she can answer you if you have questions. So don't hesitate to put your questions for Tin in the comments below. Okay, I naman, I have two questions. So
Mm.
she mentioned na nagkaroon ng decline sa motivation. So I'm going to ask her, bakit ba nag-decline? So that's my first question. What accounted for the somehow was that a lack of this was that a discouragement, a lack of hope? So uh, what what caused the decline in the motivation ng una top and then naging top 3 and then sana top 10 and then sana pumasa. So what accounted for that? And the second is bakit niya naging goal mag-top? Does it matter so much? Why does it matter to be a top notcher? So take it away, Tien.
Okay, I think I'd like to answer first the second question. I had this goal because with my previous experience with the psychometrician licensure exam, my rating almost made it to the top 10. So I already have a baseline assessment of myself that if I was able to have that rating with that kind of preparation, maybe this time I will be able to make it to the top 10 already if I do more preparation, if I like learn from the experiences that I've had in the psychometrician licensure exam. And well, I actually prayed about it also. I know that it's too ambitious, or maybe it's just something that is too big for me to ask to God, because maybe asking for me to be able to pass the board exam is already enough. But I really asked him to help me to be able to make it to the top, because I thought that if I'll make it to the top, it will boost my self confidence more. And with that, I'll be able to help better if I had that title with me. And for the first question, I think this is not just true to me, but almost to everyone, that if you're in the beginning of something or in the beginning of a project, your motivation or your hopes are really high. So at that phase of my preparation, I was even imagining myself making it to the first rank or the first pot. But then we always have to be grounded on the reality. So I assessed myself and I thought that maybe I won't be able to land in that highest spot. So I thought maybe just top 3 is the highest one. But it's not always that easy if you already start your review, because I don't know, with my experience I felt that the more I learn, the more coverage with the topics that I've studied, I felt like there's much that I need to learn. There's a lot of things that I still need to study. And so I had to be realistic at that time and thought that maybe I cannot make it to the top 10 with that self assessment. And just the hope that time was just to be able to pass the board exam. And then after the board exam, I found the exam hard. It wasn't
Mhm.
that easy for me. Maybe because I don't trust myself too much. Because after the exam, my seatmates were talking about their answers, and their answers were different from mine. And I thought, baka mali, ako ang mali. So because of that
You prayed much.
um, belief of
Yeah.
and of not believing myself and believing others to be better than me, that maybe is one thing that caused the decline of the motivation. And so that time, my prayer talaga was for me to be able to accept if ever I will not be able to pass the board exam. I know that I studied hard, I prepared so much, but if it's not for me, then I have just to accept the reality. I would like also to emphasize self-care during the preparation for board exam or any exam. First is that you don't forget the rest. And as much as possible, if you have time that is enough for the preparation, then you have to at least have 8 hours of good quality sleep, because sleep is also doing something in the learning process, in the memory process. That's what our brain does when we sleep. And then in my experience, I also went to the gym to exercise and work out almost every day. It's not because I want to be physically fit, but because that time I was experiencing anxiety and stress, because I was pushing myself too hard for me to be able to at least pass the board exam, because I wasn't scared really of failing the board exam itself. But what I was scared of is what other people would tell me, like what my office mates would say. Maybe they will say that I'm not good enough, or I was just being too ambitious to um take the exam, things like that. And then lastly, I even took a risk by taking 1 week off from my preparation, which is 1 month already before the schedule of the board exam, because I took a vacation with a friend. And at first, I thought that maybe this is gonna be a disadvantage in my part, but then later I realized na it was good because I was able to have some rest from too much studying and too much stressing myself out for the board exam. And of course, I tried also to eat healthy. So these are just some things that I did for self-care, and I hope that everyone who is taking exams, especially board exams, which we know can be really stressful, will take care of themselves always.
That's very good. It's coming from a psychologist and it's not coming from me. That's really important to rest. I would like to say goodbye to Tin and to thank her for the time that she has given to us. So let us ask Tin for her last words. Take it away, Tien.
So this pandemic has been really hard for all of us. Like we're all getting anxious, we're all adjusting, and we're all trying to live lives in the new normal. And so I'd like to leave this message to everyone that we should still continue on, keep dreaming, even though there might be changes with our plans, but our dreams should not be cancelled. They should be still on hold. And then just continue on with life and live life to the fullest.